Conflict between House Steiner and House Davion rages on.
Was it smart for the Archon to hire mercenaries to deal with the bandit army on Carver Fox?
Kelly knows that once the bandits are dealt with, the mercenaries will pull out.
Hello and welcome to the First Circuit Podcast, episode number 27. Today we'll be covering more about the unfunning or balance of Mechwarrior Online, past and present events, the recent patch notes, including things like the Black Lanner, and possibly even the future roadmap for Mechwarrior Online, if it comes out in time. Today, we have me, Biter, and our usual other regulars, Ian.
Hello.
Larsh.
Hey, yo.
And old Bob. But before we get started with all that, a word from our sponsor. Thank you very much. And so let's get started with balance/fun. I felt like we should at least finish off the story or continue the story from where we left off last time, which was to get people up to speed. There was a video produced, the Unfunning MWO, created a lot of buzz within the community. Following on from that, the community on Reddit, at least, put up a whole list of changes and improvements that they feel that should be happen to MWO. And then on No Guts, No Galaxy, they had somebody come on from the PGI team, or the Balance team, to discuss the recent buzz in the community. And I think we should just at least cover that. All right, so have you guys actually looked at much in detail about the proposed changes from the community, the spreadsheet? Mm-hmm.
Sadly, I had missed it. I've been busy.
Yeah, my difficulty, at least always when discussing these balance changes, etc., is of course a lot of people have. This is just a general thing about balance in the community. I would say it's just that everyone has different visions of what the game is and what it should be, and it's interesting at least seeing everyone bonk their heads together and try and come to consensus. And the thing is, at least from my perspective, I'm looking at it, and sometimes it's always everyone's got their kind of, I do this completely differently, and oh yes, this is totally spot on, and then there's other points where they're just saying, what are you doing? Are you completely out of your mind? Otherwise, though, I think I would generally agree with a lot of at least a few key points, which was stuff like they tried to help ballistics and missiles. As I said in the last podcast, I felt they had dropped down in popularity, and so things like improving the ammo per ton for ballistics, totally spot on. I would agree with that, including the spread of SRMs, bringing it back to its earlier state. Personally, I would make it better than its previous state, but that's just me. Again, that would really help with SRM type stuffs. And otherwise, they're messing around with the laser stuff so that, those large pulses and small pulse lasers, etc., actually sort of have more of a place than they do now. So overall, I think a lot of those balance changes are in the right direction, though how much this actually going forward will impact editing is, as ever, kind of up in the air, I would say.
All right, yeah, I think I finally found the spreadsheet you were talking about, actually, finally.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
A whole bunch of collaborators, including a fair big number of names, including Bear.
Yeah, because it was posted by Gyro Carns on Reddit, but I'm trying to find an actual name of the people who worked on this thing.
Mm-hmm. And I found it funny, at least. Some might say, there's some tryhards working on this thing, but then they are saying, actually that heavy goals change, we could just revert to the old changes. We don't know why it was implemented. I found that the most funny.
Well, actually, like my whole perspective about balance is that I don't mind the clans being tougher because that's what I think they should be, to tell you the truth. They have they'll have the power, they'll have the engines, they'll have all that kind of stuff, and I think that's fine with me. I don't mind that because over the and then the Sphere have their own little quirks and little things to balance that out, and that's what I don't mind that. What happens is when a person, like you said, perspective of like, the clan should have like, superior firepower and like massive amounts of stuff and just totally nuke the inner sphere, that's when the balance gets kind of skewed and everything, and that's what I don't want to see. Basically based on that perspective of other people.
Also, I think just something that sprung to mind actually about voices in the community. I think kind of Josh, in response to the spreadsheet, he did quite a couple of videos on it, giving his views on it. Did any of you guys see his videos?
Nope.
No, I didn't actually.
No. A big takeaway,
got so much
one
time.
that I liked from his was at least he said what they've been doing over time. PGI has been the ER medium lasers, for example. They go out further than inner sphere lasers, but the total distance is only 1.5 times that. So they reach about the same-ish as in a sphere. They just have a better optimal range. But the total distance he said at least 1.5 times that. For clan, all of their weapons are sort of ER extended range weapons, and he says that if you make it consistent across the entire ER range, i.e. better optimum range, but they don't reach out to double, because going out to double means you've got that that annoying clan ER large laser sniper touching you and scratching you from all the way across the map like 2 kilometers away, and that's not fun.
No. Okay, great.
And so I like that perspective. I think that one of the few times maybe I would agree with kind of Joshi, but I think that would be making it consistent across the board for clans would really help with balancing out the two weapon categories. Though it does make the two weapon categories more samey, so which I could totally see.
I mean, overall though, like the bringing a tabletop game coming to Mechwarrior Online, to a online first-person shooter, you're never going to find that balance. There's never going to be the supreme absolute balance of like this versus that versus this. You could make a rock paper scissors, but then basically you'll still have the people being upset about going in and writing, say, the piranha, and there's nothing to go against them because you have 12 mechs to go and use, and no one's using the rock versus the scissors against a piranha type thing. So never will find any balance per se. So just understand that when people talk about balance, it's not like the all end all be all type thing. There's always going to be something that's gonna overshadow or do something else. Like say Lerms, for example, would be Lerms. Sucky system, because there's 27 ways to beat it, type thing. You do, there's so many different ways. So it's a bad system to go ahead and have per se, unless you actually use it, type thing. It's really.
Well, this actually feeds into the last point on balance, which would be the podcast, because they actually did talk a little bit briefly about, for example, buffing on Lerms.
Come, follow me.
They had the balance guy from PGI, and I think it was an interesting discussion. Always a bit like with these discussions, they sort of talk in generalities, which sadly, for me personally, feel sometimes like nothing is actually said.
Yeah, they just kind of just talk in circles, but yeah.
Yeah, but in that they did briefly, like some people were talking about Lerms in the chat, saying, in tier 1 they are not viable, considered typically not very viable.
No.
And the guy said, yeah, I can sort of see that, but the thing is, for lower tiers in Lermageddon, buffing them up would just make it insane for the lower tier players.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that is the funny thing, at least with Lerms, is from your perspective, sure. And for us who play the game a lot of the time, yeah, Lerms are easily counterable. We sort of laugh on the face of Lermers a lot of the time because of how most Lerm mech players play. But
thank you, my
those lower tier players, buffing Lerms would just mean the end of lower tier play, other than
no.
There would just be an absolute nightmare. So they're a little bit. That's always sort of the consideration for any balance guy, is that the way the game plays is totally different for different levels of play.
True.
Yes.
True.
Come,
but I think we also
me.
touched on this on the last podcast about the balance thing, was that were things fun when it comes down to it, and that kind of gets into a muddy discussion that we could probably go on and on and on and on and on about.
Yeah. So from the No Guts No Galaxy podcast with the guy, there's a few key takeaways. One would just be the guy talked about, he always emphasized from his perspective the importance of gradual change, and the fact that he's always just slowly rolling out changes over time. So a lot of people suggesting major changes to how weapons work, and he's like, his refrain is always, okay, that's cool, but is there a way you could roll this out over 3 or 4 months' time? Yeah, is
Yeah.
there a way you could do
Yeah.
a gradual change?
Which is fine though, because you want to see if the change is actually working, because you don't want to like pop something out. Like say they totally messed up the skill tree. I mean, completely, absolutely screwed up the skill tree. They popped it up into one thing, then they gotta go, okay, well we gotta backtrack now, and everyone has their old skills back, and it'll be just a complete nightmare if they just implement one thing. So now they implement over a period of time. They're gonna figure out, well, this doesn't work that well, so let's tweak this a little bit to make it work, and then next patch will be something else type thing. That way they'll just make it a lot better. Which I don't mind that, to tell you the truth.
Yeah. It's I would say, to speak devil's advocate, the a key advantage to that approach is you'd never radically shake the boat and push everybody away.
Yeah.
If you just did a huge major change to X weapon system and that just destroyed a whole system of play, then a whole bunch of players might just say, this game is volatile. The devs don't have any clue whatsoever what they're doing and leave. Whereas if you're doing gradual change, it gives this sort of sense of stability to the game. So I think that guy, he is probably speaking from hard experience about rolling out gradual changes. Of course, the flip side to this refrain would be of the community, when hearing this, say, so you're all about gradual change, huh? So why did you just suddenly throw in, like in one go, you're doing engine desync and skill tree? There's huge changes you guys have done to the game in big, giant patches.
But it's a no-win situation though, because there's gonna be one group of people that's gonna complain about stuff. Like I always complain about lore not being inside the game. Put lore in the game. But there's always gonna be a group of people like me about lore, then another group of people about engine desync, and another another group of people about interfere small lasers, to type thing. There's always gonna be someone that's just like it's a no-win situation. It kind of sucks.
Yeah.
It kind of sucks for him.
But
Yeah.
I think the game state as it is right now is that whenever we did the skill tree, we knew it was going to come, and there was that giant hurdle of us versus them for certain players. But I agree now that if they are going to do any further patches, once we've gone over that giant hurdle, which was the skill tree, is that gradual changes are the best way to do it.
Yeah.
Just small tweaks here and there, so it's not like oh my god, you've killed my thing, or oh my god, you've buffed this thing like crazy. Small tweaking is over a gradual amount of time makes the changes not so harsh, I guess.
I would also say, at least this is something at least I wish the interviewer talked a bit about more in detail, was that the thing with these big changes was it wasn't sprung out of us in the middle of nowhere. It wasn't something done on the spur of the moment. We had a long periods of time hearing about the skill tree before it was finally implemented. We had a long period of time hearing about energy draw before it was finally, dropped.
That's canceled, yeah.
So even if those are big changes, they were slowly pushed out of the door rather than just chuck. Even if, of course, in the end of the day, a skill tree change is going to need to be just put out in one go. You don't slowly change a skill tree.
Yeah.
The other big point, at least, of discussion that people sort of brought up was the guy was talked about the direction that they're trying to take MWO. And I think this is very important in regards to community perspective and also just perspective on fun and balance, etc., etc. And which was the guy was focused a bit on. He's someone brought up Call of Duty, and he said, yeah, we totally are avoiding something like Call of Duty with really fast time to kill, where you're feeling like the hero, where you're carrying the team. We're aiming for a very team-based game. We're aiming for a very high time to kill.
Tactics.
Yeah, and I would say this is somewhat, at least, a cause or of the problem, in my opinion, at least with the regards of the Mechwarrior Online being fun or not, so to speak. because increasing the time to kill and flatlining everything in the game, sort of it means it feels a lot more you're focusing on nerfs. There aren't those hyper buffed mechs around anymore. There isn't that source of individuality or playstyles or self-expression within the game. Now I understand it's a mech game. The legacy of the Mechwarrior title, so to speak, has been more about simulation rather than necessarily all about Call of Duty individual player empowerment kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I would say the balance it was before, or at least when I came in, was about right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Like I'm more of the aspect of the longer TTK you have. Like I know, like when I play my Marauder, and if I survive a major freaking battle for a long time, it's like I remember that battle. I remember that type thing. But of course, right now, if you get 1,000 damage like in a game, that's a good score. I know it's average for you, Biter, but for the rest of us, it's more of a oh cool, I got 1,000 points like with this guy. And when you increase the TTK, obviously it's going to go up. So like 1,000 points will be on average what people should get, and 2,000 will be like what people will have. But TTK, like just like I was saying, the more longer I survive the game, the more aspect of how I feel about how I contributed to the team doing what I did, instead of just like, oh, I got alphaed by 3 mechs and that I'm done pretty much, and that I feel bad about like being playing that game itself.
Since we're on the topic of time to kill, one thing to maybe mention here is the fact that time to kill is mostly what sets MWO apart from other current game multiplayer shooters. Because as was mentioned, Call of Duty and so on, you're dead really fast.
Yeah.
In MWO, you can actually make mistakes and survive within that one game.
And you feel like a robot, type thing. You feel like a big, gigantic, stocky robot.
What you have to be careful about here is that you don't turn it into a generic first-person shooter, because that one's gonna drive players away, and that's not something PGI can afford at all.
So when you mean generic, you're saying turning it into a Call of Duty or Battlefield, right?
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Where I agree that a longer time to kill might actually benefit the game, because whenever you think about giant stompy robots, you're thinking that you are in a giant like exosuit of sorts, where you're in a giant battle armored mech that can withstand more than one PPC shot to the back before you die.
Yeah.
which I've had that happen where like I'm in like a medium mech and then poof, all right, I'm done. Like 2 minutes in. So
I've had that so many times.
Now, here's the interesting thing, at least I think, when we're talking about TTK, perhaps to explain on my point would be, what is the nature of the increased TTK? How are they accomplishing it? What do you guys think when they say they're trying to increase TTK?
So I guess that's actually a tricky question. Is that when you're going to implement TTK, do you buff the weapons? Or sorry, no, not that. Do you nerf the weapons or do you buff the armor?
It could be either or, actually.
And what have they been doing? Do you know how they've been moving towards this?
I mean, we've seen many
weapons
quirks
mostly, actually, but like not to the point where it's gonna increase TTK, except for recharge time.
No, I would argue there's a lot of changes are very much done so in the mind to increasing TTK, particularly with nerfing overperforming systems.
I would say that for sure. We've seen a lot of nerfs come out. Now,
Clan small pulse lasers make some mechs that otherwise hardly have a place really shine, and also just bring a whole brawler archetype for clan. Small pulse builds. What they do is they cut down the damage, but they improve the heat gen and cooldown and all that, so that it's a good DPS weapon, but it doesn't have the burst damage anymore, and that therefore increases the TTK, because you're not doing 20 damage alpha, you're doing like 15 or 16 damage alpha, but you're able to do it for less heat slightly more rapidly.
Yeah. So it's very tricky. I mean, I guess from a personal standpoint, I would rather see buffs to armor to improve it, but that's just how I feel. Like
Here's the thing about buffing armor further though. Like the armor values are currently doubled from the tabletop equivalent. And if you mess with those values even more, you're gonna infuriate a lot of people.
Yeah.
But they have been going
Um,
towards a brawl type mentality though, like with the new patch with all different, like with the lasers and everything, they like decrease the heat, and so basically be more of a brawler type environment because you can just keep on firing like constantly.
little.
Yeah,
Well,
and that increases like DPS.
okay, so what we talked about in the unfunding was that a lot of the time the focus people are moving towards the clan laser vomit style, even though Innisphere tanky mechs like the Innisphere Orion, obviously got a huge buff from the skill tree. They're falling out of favor relative to something like the Hellbringer, which pokes up and does 60-point alpha and then hides back down. That the games are much more longer poke fests than they were before. The reason for this is high-performing weapons like the SRMs and small pulse lasers are having their damage and spread nerfed to make them a lot less effective at close range, at least in the immediate punch. Instead, they're just slightly better weapons on paper. The other changes to like Innisphere large pulse lasers reducing the damage, increasing the heat, was because Innisphere large pulse lasers was the only thing keeping Innisphere laser boats in the fight. And now that it's gone, it's mostly just clan laser vomit because Innisphere's lost their one strongest weapon. So it's the small bursty weapons, the ones that really gave the brawler archetype their huge amount of pizzazz, is the thing that, at least in my view, have been taking the biggest nerf, and that's why brawling has sort of disappeared from the balance. And this is something, at least in Larshes group, I talked about a bit as well. It was because you're quote unquote increasing the TTK, brawling archetypes become a lot less viable. Why? Because, to make an analogy, it's a bit like in a MOBA where you're playing an assassin character. MOBAs are team-based games. In MOBAs, characters don't just fall apart instantly like Call of Duty. But just like in Mechwarrior Online, if you've got your whole team focusing one guy, they're going down pretty quickly no matter what. And a part of the MOBA, at least, is of course having a damage-focused character who's quite squishy, an assassin. And that was sort of what SRMs, small pulse lasers, and the like sort of played like. That you're taking a huge amount of risks trying to get close to the enemy team. You take a huge amount of risk when you poke right in front of the enemy team with a whole bunch of SRMs. So that huge amount of risk you're taking for that play better be damn well worth it. And what they've done by increasing TTK is make it so that you are slightly better on paper than the mecha directly in front of you. But that completely ruins the whole point of an assassin character. An assassin is about burst potential, and by nerfing that burst or spreading the damage of that burst, you're making the quote-unquote assassin character have to get really close so that they do a slightly better basic attack than any other hero. And on balance, it is just not worth the risk when you might as well have the same basic attack that has 4 times twice the distance. And what this does is it means everyone needs to spread out and engage in poke warfare where they're just slowly whittling each other down. And that is, in my opinion, at least increasing the TTK, particularly of brawler archetypes, means that the team play and the play of assassin characters are gone, making everyone just generic and bland.
Well,
So what I think we should take away from this mostly is the fact that people are in a disagreement still, and we mostly are going to have to look forward to what PGI is doing now, right?
Yeah.
Cannot wait for the next patch day to see what comes out.
And the roadmap mostly for now.
Yes,
I'm
roadmap.
really interested in that one.
Actually, but that's just at least my point on increased TTK. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Okay.
Thank you so many accounts. I do appreciate it, my friend. Thank you for the.
All right, so there's one thing that Bob and I wanted to bring up that we kind of rolled over earlier, is that I now have a webpage.
Let me get this up. I gotta get it up.
Oh, Bob, you're screwing up.
Damn it.
Yay. So one day, recently, I had some free time and I used Wix. Wix is a free source to make your own webpage. They have they have a pretty wide variety of layouts. So I went ahead and just for fun, it's just like a experiment for a page. The first portion is just me advertising my content and then going over who I
Hey, G3,
am,
what's
and
up?
then the last portion is about the First Circuit podcast. So this is just a grand experiment. It's nothing big,
It's
but
huge,
I know.
man.
Oh yeah,
It's
it's a huge
huge.
announcement.
It's going to change the way Mechwarrior Online is played.
Only if. But yeah, I mean, I thought it was a pretty cool thing to try out and try to get our community into one area, at least for my channel, and help us out with the podcast.
One of the things.
Just wondering though, are you going to be posting nudes of old Bob there as well?
Hey, you don't want nudes
Well,
of me,
Bob
man.
can make his own page for that.
Oh, baby, it's coming. It's coming, baby. Nudes of old Bob. But I do have one other thing, though. We also have now a SoundCloud account. So let me get that up here. For the First Circuit podcast, I will leave the links down below, like in the YouTube video. And right now, I can only get 2 different podcasts in there, which will be rotated. So next one we will only have 27, 26. So just let you know in case you want to listen to while you're jogging on the road, while you're at work, on the road. If you want to while you're driving to work, you can do that as well too. So that's another thing we actually just brought up too.
Yeah.
And speaking of the news, right? The patch notes. Patch notes, guys.
So yeah, let's move on to the recently announced patch notes
Hey, Snuggles,
for
by the way.
Tuesday.
Yeah. Hey Snugs, welcome to the group again.
Yeah.
Oh, hey guys.
Just squeezing you in.
Oh boy.
Oh boy.
I do things.
You do things.
So on I was harassing Russ. I'm like, please get these patch notes so we can talk about them. That's Russ, but please get these out. But patch notes will be coming out on the February 20 on the 20th, which will be Tuesday. And then for what we are trying to find out is the future path of MWO, which hopefully will get out by the thing, and we'll definitely go back and do a news report about it, like real quick. But the new store page, MC release for the Black Lanner will be July 3rd, and CBO release will be August 7th. And we will be going over the Black Lanner. But there are a couple really cool things we saw about this. Is the customer rewards program. You get to get those mechs and go and purchase those if you wanted to. And like before, you couldn't really do that. So now you can. They're going to be changing trial mechs, which I'm kind of sad though, because I do like Larshes Nova. Especially get match score when you actually need it, and they will be changing these mechs, which would be interesting to see because I want to see the blackjack out in the field. Go ahead.
I'm more upset that with these new trial mechs is that they're not allowing the players to go ahead and do a giant crazy vote to get the ones they wanted in, because that's how I kind of squeezed mine in. Is that I put it in the forums and then just made the giant rally call to bring it in, and that was kind of a fun mess. But I guess they're just going back to their own old school, just choosing what they want.
Yeah, definitely. I kind of like that because it increases the community support of the game itself and gets people involved, saying, "Oh yeah, I like this build. Let's have this inside of it." And they should have done that instead of doing this, which I don't know what they're doing, but who knows. The Warhawk, okay, I'll have to use that because I actually never even piloted a Warhawk to tell you the truth, but I'm not a Sol pilot myself. Timberwolf, which is okay, and the Highlander 2C, which is pretty good. Stormcrow as well too. I don't know. I got a Stormcrow though. I gotta go purchase one. One other thing. Oh, go on.
It's just a lot of people don't. If you play the game enough, you usually aren't taking the trial mechs. You're just sort of stuck with the trial mechs to start with.
Yeah.
And you rarely go to the trial mechs unless you need a very specific build that you just currently don't own. Otherwise, though, they're unskilled mechs with no consumables. And even when they do have ECM equipped, their ECM is, it hasn't got full warranty. It's actually pretty bad.
Yeah, because ever since they brought out the skill tree, it's kind of changed how Tron mechs function. Almost, they're even
You're
worse.
right
now
about
than
that,
they were.
though. To tell you the truth, you're definitely right about that. I didn't realize that, though. To tell you the truth.
They got, I think here, what's the ECM ones? Shadow Cat, Arctic Cheetah, I think have ECM equipped this time around. They had the Sniper Raven last time.
I'm a
Oh
sniper.
no. So overall, it's nice sort of mixing it up. It really should sort of change every month. Or they should really renovate that trial mech system. I think they should come out skilled with maybe some skill, with some consumables already equipped. Or my most favored option would be you get to actually quote unquote trial a mech out by changing its loadout, changing its skills willy-nilly, and saying, you know what, I've never tried a Warhawk. I'll try the Warhawk as a trial right now. I'll fiddle around with the build, see what one works for me, and if I really like the Warhawk, I'll buy it, or grind to buy it next month when it goes out of rotation.
That's interesting concept though. Like, do you think they would lose like money from that, or people just use a trial max and that's it? But you don't get skill points.
Currently,
right?
it's mostly an unused feature, other than for new players or when you just need that one specific build for some reason.
Well, on that last on the lunar event, I actually used some trial mechs because I didn't have any clan mechs, so I had to use a trial mech, for that. So
yeah,
okay, yeah, it might be kind of nice.
That'd just be my idea to actually make it a relevant system. So you need to suggest a way they could gradually make it that way. So next time, PGI, maybe you could let people put consumables on, because consumables are really powerful. And not having that as a trial.
Let them bring their airstrikes.
I love my own personal airspace fighter, man.
Bills. Yeah, let them equip at least one consumable in the trial mix, please.
Exactly. There's another feature that was interesting, was the auto ban system. New system implemented to auto ban disrupted players. What does that mean? I don't know what that means.
I'm not a fan of that.
Yeah, what is this?
Abuse.
I mean, like I'm not I don't like disruptive players, but I'm still not a fan of this because I see a huge amount of I got 60 of my friends, you're going down type thing, and I don't want to see that happen to anybody, to tell you the truth.
Because I could see our group getting banned for certain things.
That system is scaring the hell out of me.
Yeah, and the thing is, in the patch notes, it's just a line. That's all it tells us.
Yeah, there's no description at all. It's just, here you go, auto ban. What the hell is it?
Is it like when someone mouths off like in chat, then they go ahead and do a like after 60 or 40 like saying like you suck, like clicks basically, do you get auto banned for like a day or something? Like, what does that mean? Like, I want to know what the different aspect of that system would be, instead of like, oh, you'll be auto banned. Well, how is this going to happen? Because I want some douchebag to come over and go and ban me for some stupid reason.
Now the the devil's advocate position would be that
Thanks,
what
Epic,
they're
man.
doing is
Appreciate it.
hopefully trying to help on tier 5 with the team killing griefers. That if you at the very start of the match instantly kill 1, maybe 2, 3 teammates, and everybody reports you for that, the system will automatically ban your ass, rather than this affecting more experienced players.
Actually, like, I brought up something for that. Like, one of my videos was you can't do damage for 25 games, like team damage, like except for maybe like on game 20 to 25 you do some damage. That way it kind of implements like, hey, basically just let you know at game 26 you'll be doing full damage to people. So this kind of like puts you in there. That way, when a person does just make up a random account, they would still have to play 25 games to do full damage, and then they get they do like 4 or 5 team kills, and they get banned, then they have to make another account, and then they got to go through 25 games again to go do the full damage. And so that might be like an aspect, but this might be the new thing too. Like you said, just auto ban you, screw you, you're done. But yeah,
okay, so one thing on the auto ban system, I just posted a screenshot in Discord. McNish actually replied to that one and said the purpose of the system is to specifically address brand new accounts created for the purpose of team killing.
Okay.
Oh, that's good.
Okay,
I enjoy that.
So
yeah, hopefully that will indeed be how it is applied. The concern is still certainly I jump in a match, I say did me well, and they run around and play, just be a complete moron, and everyone reports me for griefing or whatever, and I get banned with my, however many thousands of hours count. That would not be at all welcome.
Well, I think it says brand new accounts. So, I mean, if they go to your account and they see that you've put in so many hours, you're obviously not a new account.
So they're probably going to
hopefully the bot can read that.
Yeah.
But it's just you have to be careful with automatic systems because you don't want to just suddenly hit the whole of Larshes group with the ban hammer because you're all spamming chat with
Because
silly
we do some
nonsense.
weird shit, dude.
Yeah, it happens.
It happens. But yeah,
We'll have
that's
to
a
wait
good
and
point.
see if the system is abused or not. Hopefully not, and it helps those tier 5
Wha-
players.
What do you mean? Wait and see if it. Please name me one system that isn't abused.
Yeah. Every system gets
Well, that's
abused,
exactly the concern, regardless.
They're just gonna abuse the ban hammer and just ban everybody. No game for you.
Well, it probably
Although
like
Well,
there's
start
probably
banning,
gonna there's gonna be some unintended benefits to it. I imagine that tier up is probably going to get a significant amount of just fucking bans the first day.
or like sustained eye contact.
Yeah.
Yeah, the more
exactly.
toxic people.
There's
Yeah.
certain canaries in the coal mine who will show if the system isn't actually working as intended.
Yeah, true.
It will be interesting. But moving on though,
Okay, moving on.
we now have rate of heat loss quirks for a good handful of mechs actually.
Now, this is a further on, at least in terms of their phrasing, because before they had just, I think, what was it, like rate of heat loss, and now they're being replaced with heat dissipation quirks.
Mhm.
And they're saying they're doing this because originally these quirks didn't even actually work.
Oh,
So,
fair enough.
Yeah.
They
Well, it don't
actually
work, so we're
damn
gonna fix
worked
it now.
this time.
It's going to be hard to talk shit about the quirks when they didn't work. I mean, it's like fuck. What do you say at that point?
Yeah, like I wish you would have told me that because I wouldn't actually spend all those skill points on that tree then.
Damn to respect, bitch.
Yeah,
No,
exactly.
this was a mech specific.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
The skill tree gives you heat dissipation and heat capacity, but this rate of heat loss quirk was only for these chassis. Like that was the only way you could acquire them.
Well, like 13, 10%, and 7.5 for those. I mean, the Vindicator would be really nice because I use that mech a lot. The Blackjack would be beautiful because now my arrow is going to do pretty well. The Piranha, yeah, cool. The Mech, cool. The Locust, cool. But yeah, okay.
The Mistlinks and the Cougar, I use both of those a lot.
But it's only
The
for
arrow's
like,
also really hard.
but it's only for engine caps of 250 or less. So the Panther doesn't get that. But I mean, still, it's going to help. I mean, it's going to help those mechs that I have always had heat problems with, like the Urban Mech, on like some of my builds. But yeah, that's
those mechs were supposed to be having a help, particularly if they're trying to do a laser boat variant with the rate of heat loss quirks. But according to these patch notes, they weren't actually helping, which for the most part felt like, honestly, that was sort of true. I was like, it has a huge quirk, but I'm feeling nothing.
Did they ever talk about that, saying like it never worked? Did they ever say that before?
PGI?
I don't think they ever admitted it, but it felt like it never worked.
Okay.
I'm assuming someone somewhere sat down, compared, all right, I have this spider and this urban mech with exactly the same engine loadouts. Let's compare their heat dissipation. Oh, look, they're exactly the same. I measured it to, per frame by frame PGI. What's going on?
Yeah, I'm sure someone with a lot of time and energy probably went through and did that.
And thank you whoever did that, because all these mechs really do need that little help.
Oh, actually, in the chat here, Firestone says Chris cheerfully talked about it a month ago and mentioned it as an inherited problem from the previous team brought to his attention from players. Oh, well,
cool.
Good to know. Thank you for bringing that up,
awesome.
Fire. Good. Well, then actually we're aware. Nice.
All right.
And knowing's half the battle.
Yep. Shall we roll along?
Yeah.
Do
The
you
mobility.
know what the other half of the? Do you know what the other half of the battle is?
Not knowing.
Violence.
I'm sure G.I. Joe.
Hey, if G.I. Joe were for reals, that'd be part 2 of them.
Actually, that would suck because they could never hit anything.
And then Fire Stout says, so he threw them under the bus.
So next thing is mobility skill tree. This is going to be love for the heavy and assault mechs. It's going to be 4% per node instead of 3.5. This is going to help. I mean, it's not much. I mean, 0.5% is not a great increase. You probably won't even notice it that much unless you spend all your
Well, it
nodes
stacks.
on it. Yeah, well, yeah, it stacks, but I mean, you're not gonna notice it completely unless you're a pilot like that. Sorry, my cat was on me.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm gonna notice it because I torso twist the fuck out of my mechs.
Yeah, and you use
Hold
a
on,
lot
hold
of
on. What's this
assaults,
thing
don't
called?
you?
Torso twist. Wait
Yeah.
a second. Wait. What's this torso twist thing?
It's called sharing the armor.
It's
Spreading the
remember-
armor.
I mean, the game is
Bob,
returned to Mechwarrior Online. Torso twisting is old tech.
It's old
Yeah,
tech.
You guys do realize if you get a pokey team, you just fucking push them. Like
yeah.
their long range weapons do fuck all in close range. You just put a big engine in there. You move really fast and you get close to them. And
Yeah.
problem solved.
Yeah, and then my TTK is increased.
Because torso twisting is lost tech. I'm sorry.
I mean, it is good though that the assaults and the heavies do get that extra 0.5%. So it's good. It's a good thing. I don't know if a lot of people would actually completely notice it, but it's still good. It's a positive.
It helps make the generally less valuable mobility tree actually have a bit more value. Because I do really like those
Yes,
torso
I
twist
find it a
speed
learn boat.
nodes.
Yeah.
However, it's still a large number of node investment for not a huge amount of gain, given the meh starting stats.
True. Okay, so energy. What do you guys think about the new energy reductions and bonuses and everything?
Well, it's good that they finally put down the fucking nerf hammer and started buffing things.
Yay for the small pulse laser heat brought back down.
Though you say
Somewhat.
that, I like this is a new way to hit things with the nerf whilst also look like you're buffing, because in the middle there, cooldown increased with your small laser.
I mean,
So my first small laser Nova is going to be even weaker now.
well, your small laser went from 3.2 to 3.5, so that's just a nerf hammer completely. I'm not going to use a small laser. Screw that. I'm done. I'm not going to use that thing whatsoever now.
Small lasers are hardly ever really sort of used and worth it, other than like.
How much of an increase are we talking anyway? Like
0.3%, which is
3.5 from 3.3.
0.3 seconds.
We're going to declare the entire weapon system trash because of that.
Yes, it's completely trash. It's done. I'm leaving. See you guys later.
As I seem to have perceived, at least from my perception, it was that of all the small weapon category, the clan small laser was the only one sort of being picked nowadays, because it's sort of basically an sphere medium laser for half a ton. And that if you got a spare half ton and slot lying around, you just, or a couple of those, you just chuck in some clan small lasers. And though small laser Nova, for example, is still running around a little bit, and small laser assaults was still a thing, because they all they all went to small lasers after the small pulse was nerfed, and now small lasers, the only small that was actually sort of being used, is getting a little bit of a nerf.
I mean, like, I really don't see a lot of small lasers being used. It's mostly either heavy small lasers or the small pulse lasers than the clan small lasers. So
really,
yeah,
small pulse.
Small
I see that being
pulses?
used. I use that a lot. You kidding, man?
Well,
I'm a kid
yeah.
fox. I rock on that thing.
I mean, it rocks, but I mean, people got really upset whenever they, what was it, like they up the heat and like brought down the damage for those. It was a huge nerf on those guys.
Survive and adapt. That's what I do.
Yeah, I guess true, but I think you're the only person I know who uses a small pulse laser on the clan side.
Really? Oh my god. Okay, I'll use it.
I think
tonight,
so.
then.
Because small pulse lasers have that really short range, whereas the smalls can reach out really far. The small pulse, you have to get really, really close, and then they do even less damage
and more
than
heat.
the smalls. Yeah,
I still use them. They're fun. I have no problem with it.
Typically, I mean, I have found a really fun build on a Kit Fox with a small pulse and machine gun build. That works somehow, but anything else, I just haven't found any use for it.
Well, the Kit Fox with four small pulse lasers on the top like torsos works out very well to go hill hump, and I do that a lot with that mech. Thanks, Bat Duck. I do appreciate it, man.
Yeah, I would say though, honestly, I've only been seeing like clan small lasers. Like, people tried the heavies for a while, and then they just really didn't like the long burn time, long cooldown, and short range. Whereas the clan small laser does basically about the same amount of damage, but actually can reach out quite far, and had a much better cycling time and duration and such.
True. Well,
it felt a lot more fun to use.
But like, you gotta take it from my perspective. I don't I do meta builds a lot too, but sometimes it's like I'm gonna put this on this and see how this works. And that's usually what I do a lot of times.
Oh no, same
And
here. Yeah.
because I want to have fun at the game and not like well, this has a 0.2% going to here, so I'm gonna make sure I'm gonna put this in. I just pop something on, see if it works, and let's go. Type thing.
Do I need to like rewind the video and be like, hey, your small lasers are now dead to me because the cooldown's been increased by 0.2% or whatever.
I would say
Alright.
though,
All right, gentlemen. Unfortunately, I'm gonna have to go.
Okay.
Oh,
Thanks,
Snuggles.
friends.
All right. Later.
Later.
I would still say though, from my perspective, this plays into what I said
All bad decisions.
the last podcast,
Yeah.
which was PGI constantly flatlining everything. Which is sure the other ones are getting slightly raised, but the one weapon system that was actually almost fun is getting slightly lowered. I'm just barely having fun with small lasers, and then they nerf it.
We'll just wait
And
to streaks.
It's always just slow changes all the time, but it's the one weapon system that was actually useful, that was actually fun to use, and it's been nerfed.
Yeah.
Do you
I
think
mean,
someone
That
can
just goes into the whole flatlining, everything becoming bland and banal.
Do you think someone can make a spreadsheet of what they originally had the small laser and then what it is now, basically over like increment like periods of the patch notes? Because I'll be interested to see like what they changed from, let's say, the small laser for the like Iron Sphere, and what it changed from 2 years ago to what it is now, basically, and each patch. I wonder if they have something like that. I'll be
it
interested to
would
see
be
that.
interesting just to go back to old patch notes and just not compare it over a year's worth of time of changes, but just compare it just from like one time frame to another.
Yeah.
For the most part, of course, though, we're talking just about small
Hey,
lasers.
Romero,
This
what's
was a
up, man?
weapon family
Yeah,
that
I'm
was
back.
hardly
Thanks.
used in the
Thanks.
first place. The
Yeah.
only weapons that
Much better,
were
actually,
kind of
now.
used, the Clan ER Small and the Clan Small Pulse, have got the nerfs they rightfully desire, so no one picks up small lasers ever again. Bad players do not use small weapons.
Just use what you want to use, man.
Who wants to have smart fun with small weapons? Nerf them into oblivion.
But anyway, I think we should probably keep moving on
Yeah.
because missiles, guys, streaks are gonna be changing.
Yeah.
Hitting the torsos more than the limbs.
I
This
found
could
that
be
to be kind of
considered a
interesting.
buff, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is a buff.
Because I know, like, when you do scouting missions with 4 Kintaros with, all Streak 6s, that center torso is going to explode and die type thing, so.
Side
it's pretty
torsos
nice.
more.
Yeah.
No, you strip every hit point they have,
Yeah.
and if they've skipped leg day, you know it. At least that was the way it used to work.
Yeah.
I mean, you as I sort of said after the last podcast, was actually because they nerfed SRMs. SRMs are this assassin weapon, and they just aren't worth a damn anymore. Well, I just over time slowly turned all my SRMs into streaks because, well, it's just a little heavier than Artemis, and I could actually use them at max range and still get the good damage output. And
Yeah.
I've been doing a lot of good work with streaks. Like to carry the team, I've been using streak launchers, and now they're buffing streaks, so now I can, use my streak clops, my streak hellspawns, my streak Arctic wolves, and they're going to be even more potent than they were before.
Yeah, I mean, this might actually make me change more to streaks like you did, because I've always been a just purely SRM brawler, but I'm gonna start using some streaks now.
SRMs have been just thrown to the curb because of the increased TTK. It is not worth getting to point blank range because your weapon has slightly better numbers on the spreadsheet.
Yeah.
Might as well just streak, dude.
Plus, you're guaranteed to pretty much hit too, and that's kind of nice.
And
Exactly.
now it's a guaranteed hit on side torsos almost. So yeah.
We'll have to see, of course, how it actually plays out. I hope at least, if you torso twist against streaks, you put your arm in front, the arm takes the majority of the damage still, that it doesn't go around and hit the torso.
Could you imagine that?
It teleports to your side torso, period.
It's like some sort of like old like Looney Tunes cartoon where it's like whoop, it just goes just around your arm.
Like I heard from some veterans, at least when the game was first implemented, Streak 2 meta was really potent because the streaks always went to the center torso.
Well, didn't you have a problem
So
with like streak going to the back torso? The back torso. Like you had a problem with that, didn't you? Like with the streaks. Was it you that was had the problem?
That wasn't me.
So I was having a problem though.
What recently?
Where the streaks were hitting the back torso, the back right or left torso when the person was in front. I forgot who it was.
That doesn't sound like a problem. That sounds like an unintentional benefit.
It's not the bug, it's the feature, dude.
Exactly.
That's how it goes, man.
True.
We'll have to wait and see, because at least from my perspective, streaks were really good, really fun. Not a lot of list people necessarily use them, but they were really damn effective in increasing their effectiveness or changing their effectiveness. We'll have to wait and see.
Piranhas too.
Yeah, and just I wanted to say on the changes. So Piranha finally gets its heat dissipation rather than the ineffectual heat loss quirk, and its micro lasers are a lot cooler now. So you
Yeah.
could, the energy boat Piranha could actually be a bit more viable.
But I mainly use the
yeah.
machine gun one, so it doesn't matter about heat. But I do have a flavor.
Yeah, I mainly just used machine gun one, but the laser one was always held back by heat, and now the heat's
True.
improved in both
True.
respects.
Okay, so
Alright,
now
anyway,
we
guys,
MRM 30.
Yep, RIP Merm 30.
9 point from 9 to 9.5. I don't usually use 30s except for my trebuchet with two 30s on it, but you know, like I switched out on my Marauder 5D, I think it is, to a 40 instead of two 30s, and this might be pretty good. I know it changed my perspective of using 30s now. I'm just using a 40.
Yeah, I'm actually doing hopefully if I have time, I'm doing a video on Merms next month, and yeah, this is gonna change some points of my math for my script now.
5%
Again,
increase the
to
heat
go
zone.
with the theme, a lot of people having fun with MRM 30s, so PGI says this system is too popular. Let's just make it slightly worse.
Let's kill it. Yeah.
Yep.
Let's kill everyone's fun time and time again.
Well, like I say, it's a combination of relative tonnage, like efficiency, natural heat, ability to fire up to 60 damage volleys without penalty. You have skewed 30s just a bit above the rest of the MRM like lineup. So basically, like I have been seeing a lot of 230 builds instead of like say a 40, you know, like something like that. So they're taking those to reduce down the heat, so they increase the heat to make it effective of doing that amount of damage type thing. I guess the spreadsheet numbers are.
That's a little upsetting. I mean, like,
me-
you go ahead.
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
So for me personally, I don't think this is gonna change a whole lot. If I have a mech with dual 30 that I enjoy, I'm gonna keep it like that.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Oh yeah.
Just like I gotta have.
We'll have to see how it plays out, because the way it was sort of balanced was you either have to take the MERM 10 is the least heat efficient but the tonnage efficient. The MERM 40 is the most tonnage efficient as well, but it's huge and you need to put a lot of tonnage towards it. And the 20 and 30, you're spending an extra ton, but you're getting heat efficiency. So the 30, you're spending an extra ton to not get so you're just slightly more efficient now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
So yeah,
no.
so it's efficient, but just slightly.
Well, like
in
just
my
like
opinion,
the torso twist quirk, you know, it's there, but you might not notice it type thing. I mean, 0.5 is not too bad.
I mean, I always just use 40s anyway because they're the most heat efficient and tonnage efficient.
Well,
But in terms of
I mean-
pure tubes that you could fire in one go without those 30s were the way to go, at least with most people.
Yeah.
Okay,
So we'll see.
Yeah, you know, we'll see how it is on the battlefield though. So mech quirks, they're changing the riflemen's, which is interesting because I got a legend killer, which this would be interesting to go see because like will they change the 10% for the LB10X too, or is that just a generalization?
Yeah, that remains. However,
Okay.
they're just rolling the ballistic and energy 10% into a universal 10. So it basically saves one line on the quirks list screen.
That's what it really is.
You know,
it's not much of a change.
One of the biggest gripes I had about the quirk tree is I want to see on the mech itself the quirks it normally came with, and the quirks I put in with the skill tree. Oh my god!
Make them like a different
color.
Make
or
them. Make them. Yeah. Just change the color so we know what its base quirks are.
Because like when I see
a little issue with that would just be some factors like heat dissipation and crit chance receiving are exactly the same as the skill tree. So they actually currently they stack together.
Oh, okay. Well, I would just want to see something different though. When I do my builds, I'm like, okay, well this has a plus 10% for LB10X, so like I got to figure this out, and then I don't have to go to the store, look at what it is normally, and go, okay, so the plus, you know, like instead of going through this whole thing, which my eyes are old, so looking at the little tiny screen, it sucks. You know, I just make a different color from the original quirks what I had. That'd be so nice. Russ, please.
All right, but
anybody.
I would just say a lot of these quirk changes are in similar line to the Shadowhawk, and of course we know the Shadowhawk is just 12v12 Shadowhawks right now.
Yeah,
They
completely overpowered, Mike.
they're taking
No, actually not here.
they're just giving them overall weapon quirks
Yeah.
usually, just a little buffs here and there. It's no big game changes, but
Same with the Jaeger
it's
mech
nice.
too.
I prefer having universal quirks rather than just specific quirks, particularly when it just makes it a lot easier to read.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same with the Jaeger mech. They're doing the same thing for those with universal weapon damage, and then the Firebrand for that too. Like Rifleman, just like that one. So
Yeah, so
it
nothing
makes
real
sense.
big.
And then the
But
Thanatos
the
is given.
Thanatos, though.
They've
Yeah,
added
Thanatos.
universal 10% ranges to the Jaeger mechs, so slight little increases that do make all those Rifleman and Jaeger mech players a little happier, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I barely use them, but I'm sure they're out there. So
And the Thanatos, they're getting structure bonus converted to armor bonuses, which it's kind of cool, I guess. Yeah, kind of
that's
neat.
actually is nice. I like that.
Yeah, it's a nice buff.
The Victor as well.
Hooray! I won't have my side torso opened up and my ECM instantly critted out so often.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that's good.
So then the Victor as well
Then
too.
the Victor is basically the same thing as the other mechs.
Yeah.
Makes sense. You know, basically that's
actually,
nice of doing it though.
Well, the Jaeger mechs are getting extra stuff, but some of it's flat, just changing numbers around. The Rifleman's changing numbers around, but the Victors, these are the less brawly ones, the less often picked ones, are getting new quirks. They're slightly improved quirks.
Yeah,
slightly improved from what I have.
So the cockpit items, did you see the mounted cuckoo clock? I guess that's gonna be interesting to see how it is.
I missed that actually.
That's
That
gonna
should
be
be
cool.
fun. And
Cuckoo,
I kind of like the Falcon. I kind of wish I can't. Wait, can I get the? Oh, yeah, it's expired. Yeah, I kind of wish because now now that I see these, I'm like, these are really cool. I like these.
So for those of you who actually bought the Black Ladder, you're getting some
yes,
stuff.
For all maybe 2 or 3 of you out there who actually bought this mech, you're gonna get some free swag.
Oh man.
So usually we mostly skip around the fixes and improvements. Today I'd actually like to go over them real quick because Escort Alpine Peaks VIP mech gets stuck in K9 J9 against the mountain.
Yep, that happened so many times.
And the other thing, server improvements, we did see a lot more disconnects lately than usual, so I'm glad to know that they're working on something there.
Yeah, thank God for that.
New optimized queries of friends able to address some slowdown warnings for users with very large friend and block. I have a huge friend list, so this might actually help me out. Okay, that's good actually. That's really good. Cool. Yeah. I mean, too bad we didn't get to the events. They're basically with the pinups. I really do like how they're doing the pinups. I want to see more bomber pinups. That'd be kicking. I'd love to have those like on my mech. As far as anything else, you guys have like anything else there?
I mean, I guess these decals, I want to see more of these.
Yeah, dude, they're really cool.
Those are really cool decals. They're doing good with those. I like them a lot.
And maybe one thing to just mention real quick, the Valentine's event is still going on, which gives you basically 2 free million Seables per day.
If you group
for
up with a
today
person.
and tomorrow.
Yeah, and it's really easy to get the Lance information. Although some games, all my Lance mates just spread all over the place, and so that kind of sucked. But usually, like over a period of time, you will get your Lance information. Especially in smaller maps, like HPG and stuff like that.
The tip for that is just take heavy and assault mechs. Don't take light mechs. So that way you get into Charlie Lands.
And I had an issue earlier with the mic, and our sponsor didn't get touched, so I'm going to go ahead and do the sponsor again.
I just wanted to quickly touch on the last
go
few points here and there. I like the Black Lanner stuff thing. I'll be looking forward to piloting that mech. I don't think it was that popular, so hopefully it's got some really good quirks. I'm going to have a lot of fun abusing the hell out of this thing. The countdown has started for the thing, so of course there's the wallpapers. Woo. But the other thing that's just recently been updated has been the size comparison, so you can sort of see it side by side, a whole bunch of other things. It's actually fairly squished down. It's like a little tinier Stormcrow, little tinier Bushwhacker. I think this thing will be a lot of fun. I hope it will, at least anyway. Lots of shenanigans. I'm hoping for shenanigans.
It's just smaller than Griffin too, which is interesting. Same size.
Yeah,
as
so
as a hamster.
and it goes really fast with the mask and ECM. It's going to be a tricky little bastard.
Yeah.
Gonna be interesting.
Hopefully, anyway. It better have some quirks. Give it some survival. Make it tanky and tiny. I love it.
So,
I'm actually kind of pumped to get it, or the free one at least.
well,
so.
always the first week when a mech comes
Uh-huh.
out, it's always
Free
a fun
Black
time.
Lanner?
Oh, wait, free
Right.
Black Lanner?
What?
Oh wait, no, sorry. I'm
What?
thinking of the other stupid thing. Never
No.
mind, because they look similar.
No, next month will be the Sun Spider and Roughneck Hero.
Yeah,
For free.
that's what we're getting.
Oh, the Roughneck Hero. That's right. Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's one I cannot wait
Ah.
to see.
And
It's
these.
a roughneck.
It's a Roughneck, my
the
favorite
mech is
mech. I
good. The
cannot
lore
wait.
sucks. Donkey ho. Donkey doo doo. Donkey ho.
Let's
That was a
don't
real-
get started on that. Let's
Okay.
move on.
Okay.
Yeah, let's move on. But
Okay. So I had a problem like earlier in the podcast, so I'm going to do the sponsor once again, guys. So here we go. Hold on. Are you troubled
Go
by pirates
ahead.
at your jump points? Do you sense feelings of dread along the clan border? Have you or your family ever seen a desk agent on your streets? If your answer is yes, don't wait another minute. Head over to your local HPG and call the professionals, Knights of the Inner Sphere. We're here to serve you. Thank you, John Doe, Iowa. Okay.
yay.
Yay, Hosmeric units. Woohoo.
House Merrick. So wrap up then.
Yeah. So, everyone, again, thank you for tuning in to the First Circuit podcast. This is Lars, your casual mech warrior. You can find me on the Twitters at Lars_01. Stay tuned within the next hour or so. We're getting a group together to do a theme for tonight. We're doing all ATM drops.
Should be interesting.
gonna be
'cause
fun.
I suck at ATMs, but go on.
Remember, folks, if you've
Okay.
enjoyed the First Circuit podcast, be sure to tell PGI to nerf us.
Yes.
Ouch.
And this is Oldbob10025, and tomorrow my special project will be out. It's about 17 videos, and it's going to be interesting. It's bringing back nostalgia back to Mechwarrior or BattleTech itself, and hopefully you guys will like it. Check it out. I don't know what time on Saturday, so check. It's probably early in the morning just to get them all out, to tell you the truth. It's me a pain in the ass, but it's something I love and I wanted to do for the community, so it'll be out there for you guys. Anything from Biter and Ian?
But
No,
go on, say
I have
goodbye.
my joke.
We've done the usual awkward ending.
Oh,
See
no.
ya!
Bye-bye.
Darren said he passed the note on to PGI Chris. We're in trouble.
Oh,
Nerfing coming.
Nerf First Circuit podcast buff Black Lanner wallpapers. There we go.
Plus another thing, guys, if you do have a sponsor or want to, it has to be lore friendly, just let me know in Twitter under messages, and we'll try to get it onto the podcast itself, guys. Sponsor. We need sponsors. Okay. See you guys later. Bye. Bob out.
bye.